Welcome to Deep Dive. Imagine preparing for months, getting every document just right, planning that dream family trip to the U.S., only to have it all fall apart in a confusing 5-minute interview. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a specific case that really, well, it lays bare the often unpredictable, sometimes really frustrating reality for U.S. B-2 tourist visa applicants, even for people who seem like perfect candidates.
Indeed. We've looked closely at the situation involving a family from Delhi. They were just stunned by the outcome, especially given, their credentials looked exceptionally strong on paper. So our mission today is really to unpack this specific case. We want to dissect the nuances of a Section 214B rejection. Hopefully you'll get a better grasp of what's really going on when the system says no, even when everything seems right.
Okay, let's zoom in on this Delhi family then. What made their application seem so robust? I mean, really solid on paper. You could almost say it's the kind of application people might think is a guaranteed approval, right?
Absolutely. Let's look at the details. We have a 36-year-old IT operations lead from Delhi. His income is around 15 lakh per year. Now that's roughly 18,000, 20,000 US dollars annually, a very strong income in the Indian context. Plus, he had personal savings over 20 lakh. That's about 24,000 US dollars.
Okay, so significant personal finances there.
Right. And that alone shows clear stability. But it wasn't just him. His parents, both in their 70s, also had good incomes. 8 lakh and 7.5 lakh per year, respectively. They were client managers in publishing. So it's not just one strong applicant, it's a whole family unit. Established careers, high earnings, substantial stability.
And there was more, wasn't there, adding even more security to their profile?
Yes, exactly. Collectively, the family's savings were over 50 lakh. That's a lot, nearly 60,000 US dollars. And they owned property in India. Significant property.
Right, so not just income and liquid cash, but fixed assets too. That usually demonstrates really deep roots, doesn't it? Commitment to their home country.
Precisely. It points strongly towards their intention to return to India. They had a lot tying them there.
And what about the trip itself? Was it just a vague idea?
Not at all. Beyond the finances and the ties, their travel plans were meticulously laid out. They had a detailed 2-week itinerary, Christmas vacation, planned stops in major U.S. cities, New York, L.A., San Francisco, and crucially, they had confirmed hotel bookings for every stop, a full schedule, all pre-planned.
Confirmed bookings already in place.
Yes, which usually signals genuine tourist intent, right? A clear purpose, not an open-ended stay, especially for a family trip like this.
So that's what's so baffling. I mean, on paper, they ticked every single box we're told makes a strong application. Stable jobs, good income, big savings, property, a clear temporary travel plan. It almost feels, well, counterintuitive that they'd be denied.
It does.
So when the denial still happens despite all this evidence, what does that really tell us about the criteria being used? Or maybe what's not being used in that interview room?
Well, this brings us to the interview itself. Because often, those few minutes with the consular officer, that's where the final decision gets made. And sometimes, like in this case, it's a bewildering impression that's formed. The family's experience at the U.S. Embassy in New Delhi was quite peculiar. Unexpected, really. The applicant had explained up front, you see, that his elderly parents weren't fluent in English.
Okay, so they needed help.
Yes, so a Hindi translator was being used, which seems perfectly reasonable, right? A transparent thing to do, declared right at the start.
Absolutely. But then things took a sharp turn, didn't they? This is where it gets really unsettling.
It did. Midway through, apparently, the consular officer interrupted and made this rather pointed comment, saying, "You said your parents don't know English and your mother is speaking fine."
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then just moments later, almost immediately after that comment,
Yeah.
the interview was over, abruptly ended, refusal slips handed out.
Just like that. Shockingly fast. They must have been in total shock.
Exactly. The applicant described it as bewildering because, he said, the consular officer asked 0 questions about their jobs, nothing about their travel history or their quite significant financial situation.
The things you'd expect them to ask about.
The very things, the elements that are typically central to these interviews, for assessing intent.
Yeah.
So this abruptness plus the complete lack of standard substantive questions, it's a really significant detail. It suggests the decision might have been based on something else entirely. Maybe that single perceived inconsistency about the language overshadowed everything.
So they walk out bewildered with this denial under Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act. For a lot of people, 214B is just the this black box. Opaque is the word often used, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Can you shed some light on that for us? What does 214B actually mean, and why is it seen as so unclear?
Yeah, connecting this to the bigger picture, Section 214B is by far the most common reason for U.S. non-immigrant visa denials. It affects countless people worldwide. Basically, it means the consular officer wasn't convinced, not convinced the applicant intended to return home after their visit. Or maybe that they didn't fully qualify under the B2 visa terms.
Which is strictly for temporary stays, like tourism or family visits.
Exactly. Tourism, family, medical treatment, temporary. And the key thing is, U.S. law puts the burden of proof on the applicant. Every single applicant has to overcome a presumption that they intend to immigrate.
Ah, so you're presumed an intending immigrant until you prove otherwise.
Precisely. And it's called opaque because they rarely, if ever, tell you why they weren't convinced. You just get the refusal slip citing 214B. No detailed explanation.
Leaving you completely guessing what went wrong.
Right. It's like playing a game, but you don't know all the rules and the ref won't explain the foul. It must feel incredibly disempowering.
That lack of specific feedback, yeah, that must be incredibly frustrating. You're left wondering, what do I fix? But it isn't a permanent ban, is it? You can apply again.
That's correct. It's not permanent. It's not a lifetime mark against you. Applicants can definitely reapply. But here's the critical part. They need to come back with more compelling proof. Proof of their ties to India, strong enough to overcome whatever doubt existed the first time.
So the burden is entirely on them to strengthen the case.
Entirely. They have to proactively address that underlying presumption of immigrant intent. And without specific feedback, well, it's challenging. You have to strategically rethink everything you presented, highlight things maybe you didn't emphasize enough or that were missed. It forces a real deep dive into your own application.
This whole thing, especially with this family's strong profile, it just seems so arbitrary that the applicant himself, he shared his frustration online, right? On Reddit.
You did.
Pointing out, like, people I know with 10 lakh in savings got approved, which is about 12,000 US dollars, and asking, how much more do you need? It really makes you question the fairness, the consistency.
And that hits on a really crucial point. Subjectivity. It's huge in this process. The online discussions really echoed the family's frustration. You had commenters on Reddit saying things like, what counts as enough savings or strong ties? It's highly subjective. It can vary wildly depending on the specific consular officer you happen to get.
So one officer might see it differently from another.
Exactly. Someone shared a story. My cousin, fresh graduate, almost no savings, got approved. Me, stable job, twice the assets, denied. This feeling that the system sometimes rewards the seemingly less qualified, or that it runs on hidden rules. It's a common sentiment.
Like it's almost a game of chance.
Some people definitely feel that way, that it depends heavily on the individual officer, maybe even how busy they are that day, which feels incredibly unfair if you've prepared meticulously.
So it's not just about the numbers on the paper.
Not entirely. It's about the overall perception the officer forms in those few minutes. And that perception can be influenced by anything, their training, past experiences, maybe even subtle cues from the applicant.
Which explains how a textbook-strong application can still fail. The judgment is human, it's subjective.
Right. And they're always looking for anything, any tiny inconsistency that might hint at that immigrant intent.
So even with the stable jobs, the solid finances, the property, the detailed plans, rejection can happen, no clear why. And it really echoes other stories we've heard, right? Professionals, experienced travelers, people who visited other countries, no problem, denied a U.S. visa.
Exactly. It's unfortunately not an isolated incident, which makes it more concerning and really highlights the challenge of this process.
Okay, so given all this, the potential for arbitrariness, the subjectivity, it can feel a bit hopeless.
It can feel that way, yes. But while the process seems arbitrary and it can leave applicants feeling powerless, there are still concrete things to consider for future applications. The main hurdle, and it's a big one, is always overcoming that presumption of immigrant intent.
By law, you're presumed an intending immigrant until proven otherwise.
Correct. And this family's experience just shows how hard it can sometimes be to convey that proof convincingly in a short interview, especially when unexpected things, like the language question, suddenly take over.
So knowing this and thinking about our listeners who might be preparing an application or maybe facing a reapplication, what's the crucial advice? How can someone navigate this complex, uncertain landscape better, especially with these curveballs?
Right. We've sort of distilled a few key takeaways based on cases like this one and many others we've seen. First, and probably most important, present clear ties. Really highlight those strong professional, family, property links to your home country, India, in this instance. And it's not just listing them. It's about providing solid, undeniable proof. Documentation.
Like what specifically?
Think employment letters detailing your job, how long you've been there, property deeds, family certificates, bank statements showing consistent savings over time, anything that screams, I have deep roots here and compelling reasons to return.
And have it organized, ready to show, even if they don't ask.
Exactly, because the interview is short. If they don't ask, you might not get to say it. Let the documents speak. It shifts the proof from just your words to verifiable facts.
Okay, clear ties, solid documentation. What's next?
Second, based on this case, anticipate language-related queries. If you're using a translator or if there's any potential question about language skills, yours or your family's, be ready for it. Be prepared for scrutiny. Ensure your statements are consistent, written, and verbal. And be ready to calmly explain any perceived issues about language ability.
Because even small misunderstandings there could impact credibility.
Disproportionately so. A small inconsistency can raise flags in the officer's mind.
That's a really sharp point from this case.
No.
Okay, beyond documentation and language prep.
Third, and this one's tough emotionally, but essential. Expect variation and try not to take it personally. Visa outcomes can feel arbitrary. Like we said, your friend with fewer resources might get approved, you might not. Prepare mentally for that uncertainty. And remember, a denial is usually about the officer not being convinced about your intent to return. It's not a judgment on you as a person.
It's about meeting their threshold of conviction, which can just vary.
Precisely. And finally, number 4, prepare for reapplication thoughtfully. If you are denied, don't just give up. See it as feedback, even if it's indirect. It means your first attempt didn't fully address their concerns about you returning home.
So use it as a chance to improve.
Yes. Reevaluate everything. Gather even stronger evidence. Maybe tweak the travel plan details. Be ready to articulate your ties and your intent even more clearly next time. The goal is always compelling evidence. Strong, undeniable ties. Leave no room for doubt.
Okay, so let's try to summarize this. This Delhi families case, it really shines a light on just how complex, subjective, and unpredictable the U.S. B-2 visa process under Section 214D can be. Even with, great finances, clear plans, properties, strong ties, rejection can still happen. And the interview itself, it might be super short, seem almost random, maybe focus on something unexpected like language instead of the usual money or job questions.
Exactly. The absolute key takeaway is that the consular officer has to be convinced you're coming back home. That presumption of immigrant intent, it's a powerful legal thing you have to overcome. Reapplying is definitely an option, but it demands a really careful look back at everything. You need to focus on presenting even stronger evidence of your connections, job, property, family, clear reasons for returning.
Meticulous preparation is key then.
Absolutely. Meticulous prep and understanding that even a perfect-looking application might need more proof, more clarity to get past that subjective judgment in the interview. It really tests not just if you qualify, but if you can convincingly show it under pressure.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into what is clearly a really important and often very confusing subject. We really hope exploring this Delhi family's experience gives you some valuable insights if you're navigating the U.S. B-2 visa process. Helps understand those hidden dynamics.
Indeed. Understanding these intricacies is just vital for anyone dealing with international travel today. We hope this helps clear up some of the mystery.
All the best, and we will meet again with another important subject in the next meeting.